Good morning, nuts and bolts listeners and viewers. Welcome to another Friday where we will, in 20 minutes, be sharing a very interesting topic. So, being mindful that the nuts and bolts uh, live series is shown on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and is really for leaders, business owners, and individuals to flourish in their lives and lead their teams uh, better. So, today's topic is a topic that is also very close to my heart and very dear to me, and that is about how to manage teams that have succumbed to feeling hopeless. So let's talk about this word hopelessness for a moment first. And maybe you think it's something that's come up now recently because of the pandemic. However, it's a very well known researched concept and goes back to around about 1974, where Aaron Beck started really researching the whole concept of feeling hopeless. And we've got quite a few scales that have actually been created on the level of hopelessness for individuals or teams. So if you do want to have one of these scales emailed to you, please let me know, and I'll forward them to you, and you can use them actually to just discover or establish where you are on your level of hopelessness as well, or where your team is. But hopelessness is, I guess, the opposite to feeling hope or optimistic. You just don't feel that the future has any, I'm trying to find a better word for it, but that there is any connection between your future and your actions that you're doing right now. Hence, your behavior is different. So, there's a lot of surrendering involved and a lot of not having control of situations. So, we just feel like we want to give up. It doesn't really matter. And that leads to feeling hopeless. Naturally, for a team, it has huge consequences, and I'll come back to that in a moment. But even for an individual, if one continuously feels hopeless, one starts to feel very rudderless in life. You stop setting goals, and even, I guess, it over time has an increase in mental illnesses through such as anxiety, depression, bipolar, and just fears that one has and worries. So it does over time really is a behavior that is counterproductive to a person, but it is something one can work towards changing in small steps. And I know the environment we're around, especially the last 2.5 years, have made us feel more hopeless in certain situations. So, feeling hopeless is a really powerful emotion, and often we don't regard it as an emotion. And because it's an emotion, it's quite fleeting. So it's not the same every day. So it will have its ups and its downs, but it's constantly there. And the challenge is if an emotion is there for a long time, it actually develops into a mood, which makes it more part of you, and hence becomes part of your way of thinking, behaving, your actions, your language. And to undo that, it takes a little bit more work. So it's a cognitive behavior that you adapt, and to undo that is challenging. So signs to pick up on people if they are feeling hopeless is really that there is a sense of deeper sadness in their lives. So they just feel a little bit more sad about everything. It's just that they've lost that level of seeing the positive of life. So there's that level of sadness. It does impact their health. So it will show through the things like their care for their nutrition or their sleeping. So either they'll sleep a lot, or they'll sleep little. So they'll either become little insomniacs, or they'll sleep a lot as a survival mechanism to not feel this level of hopelessness. Another thing it is that you'll see that they might um, decrease their level of personal hygiene and just not bother. They just don't care to dress up, or they just don't care what they're eating. And even in their household, they don't care of even cleaning up or keeping things tidy. So everything is about, I don't care. It doesn't matter. The future is quite dull. No one can really help me. It's actually too late to start anything. So those are all words and languages that you'll hear, and they often feel quite anxious. And the anxiety is about the lack of control that they have over certain areas in their lives. And I understand that right now there are certain areas in our lives that are perhaps a bit out of our control, but there are other areas in our lives that we do have control. So it's starting to separate it and not put everything in the same pot and look at it holistically. So rather starting to separate on, this is what I have control over and this is what I don't. The challenge for looking at hopelessness in a team is that because I said it was an emotion, it makes it contagious. We feed off each other's emotions, and if one person is continuously feeling hopeless, the other person subconsciously draws on that energy and starts mirroring the same behavior. So in a team, that means that your team starts giving up quite quickly. They don't have the perseverance to really get through obstacles or things that are difficult for them. They don't necessarily achieve goals on the due date or miss them totally, and they might actually not care that they've missed them. So it doesn't matter to them. There's not a level of responsibility is lost. They're not open for new projects, so there's no interest in new opportunities, new ventures, new tasks for growing, for developing. There's none of that interest. It's really all about stagnation, which is really, in my personal belief, not what we meant to be put on this planet Earth, is to stagnate. I am in the deepest belief that we are here to thrive and to really flourish. But the challenge is we seldom know how to get there. So that is just an example of where your team shows some of that. So once there becomes a level of hopelessness, it becomes a culture, if I can call it that. It's just whatever. And to undo that as a business owner or as a leader is quite challenging, because you are asking to replace behavior and take a lot of work. So it's easier to stop it when you see it and work on it, then let it go and let just hope that it sorts itself out. All right, so let's look at 5 techniques where you, as a leader or business manager, and even in your personal life, can manage hopelessness. And I just want to also add that it is quite normal to feel hopeless. We all do. We all do have that in certain days, in certain areas where we just feel that it doesn't matter what we actually do. And it's becoming aware of that and really challenging our thinking to say, is that really true? Because remember, if you've thought it, your monkey brain accepts it as the truth, because your brain is not able to differentiate between if it's true or false, and hence then reacts and responds to it and behaves towards it. So let's start with the first way of managing hopelessness. And it might sound a bit simple, um, but it's really measuring on a scale of 1 to 10 how hopeless you feel every day. So today you might say, you know what, I'm actually a 5 out of 10. And yesterday you might have felt a 7 out of 10. And so it goes. And keep a bit of a score on it. And the reason for it is for you to recognize that your level of hopelessness day to day is fleeting. It's not the same. So it's not stable. And that is quite positive because it makes you realize that some days are better than others. And then exploring what made the one day a 5 or a 4 and what made the other day an 8. Because it's starting to look at your own surroundings and what's happening that is part of the solution of how you can resolve it. The second one, and it's key in really looking at hopelessness, and there is an abundance of scientific research that's been done on this, and it's about setting goals because goals counter or the antidote to feeling hopeless because they allow you to feel control and they give you motivation. So it's really looking at what are goals that I want to achieve, but also making sure that the goals are realistic. So rather make them chunk size or bite size and not too big, because if you set yourself up for failure, that obviously fuels the hopelessness. So in your team, start setting small goals and then understand what the purpose is of the goals, that you understand why you are doing them or what their intent is and how they provide meaning or value to you or others. Because as I say, that provision of values creates that intrinsic motivation, fulfills our needs and values, which again helps to counter the hopelessness. However, when you're doing that with a team of setting goals, also take a moment to brainstorm what are possible challenges or obstacles that can get in the way of us achieving this. Because once you can look at the obstacles, you're already one step ahead to say, when this happens, this is how we're going to deal with it. So your creativity and your innovation and your decision making is there. So it's not when it happens that it takes you all the way back. You are taking control already of things that possibly could happen. The third one is monitor your progress in goal setting. So, really find tangible or non tangible ways of establishing, am I progressing? The tangible ones are always easy. I mean, you can measure many things. The intangible ones are more about, how do I feel about this and what does this feeling relate to? So you can also measure, how much do I feel more confident, less hopeless, happier, that I'm growing. So those are concepts, and where do you feel them in your body? And it's most likely that you'll feel them in your gut or in your heart. You will not feel them in your cognitive brain, because your brain is not meant to do any of that kind of feeling stuff. So it's really going sometimes like, where do I feel that? The fourth one, again, is key and is so much lacked in organizations or even in teams or in businesses, be that as a solo entrepreneur, or if you're having a SME kind of business, but it's really celebrating wins. So, really taking a pause to look at the goals that you've achieved or the progress that you have made in goals, and just pause and really celebrate the win that you have made. It doesn't matter how big it is or how small, but it's the concept of celebrating. And celebrating does not mean that you have to always have a big do about it, like go out for a luncheon or have a or to have a team activity or a team intervention around it. It can be something small, like just bringing muffins to the office, and just gathering around and having a cup of coffee and with the muffin, just talking about why this project or this goal was so wonderful and how we all contributed to it. So it's really about that. You can use it very casually in a team meeting to just open a team meeting with it and say, let's just honor each other here and celebrate the moment. You can do high fives or, fist bumps to honor it, but really share that emotion, because people recognize that emotion and they store it in their brain and they remember it. So they'll go back and recall it. So savor celebration, because it adds to people's wanting to achieve goals and takes them more of feeling hopeless, because they feel we can actually do something. And the same as a solo entrepreneur, pause and really celebrate. I mean, ring a bell if you've got a new client, or share it with your network or with your friends. And it's not bragging, like share it with each other. Um, so, hence, that's very key. And then the fifth one I know might sound counterintuitive to hopelessness and honoring it in your team, but have a worry board somewhere, either digitally or physically in the office. Like we used to have whiteboards, you can do it digitally. Have a worry board and let people share openly what they actually worry about. Because the more we can articulate it, we can either go, I worry about the same thing, and we have conversation about how can we address this, or where is this coming from. So we are opening conversation, plus we are allowing people to voice it, and it just helps it there. And it takes all this energy that we are consuming in our own bodies to worry about something, then to just put it out in the open. And the more people can see what you are worrying about, they can also support you on it and go, oh, is that what you're worrying about? I can assist you with that, or I know how to solve that. So it's really being courageous and vulnerable to be expressive and sharing your level of hopelessness. As I say, we all feel it. We all know what it is like. So it's not something that is very selective, but we all are embarrassed to often share that we feel hopeless about a situation, a project, whatever it is. But the more we open up, the more support we get, which is again solves that. So, ladies and gentlemen, those are the 5 tips on how to manage hopelessness, as I say, in your team, in your business, or in your own life. And take baby steps, with the key one really is starting to measure it. And as I say, if you want to know, get a scale on to establish what your baseline right now is on hopelessness, please just email me, or pop me a message, and I will gladly send you the scale. And also then try and set goals, really using the concept of SMART goals. I know they sound very simplistic, but really working through all of those acronyms in SMART goals does help, especially when it comes to, is this realistic and how am I going to measure it? Because those are the two components that often are overlooked or rushed through. So, on that note, I hope you found this topic very interesting. And if you have certain topics that you would like me to cover, please do also reach out to me, and I will gladly honor them. So, have an amazing Friday. Hope you have a restful and recharging weekend, and I look forward to connecting with you next Friday. Thanks again for your time and take good care. Bye bye.